Captain Elias Vorn sat alone in the dim control room of the exploration shuttle Aurora, staring at the blinking console before him. Space stretched endlessly beyond the reinforced viewport, a silent canvas of stars, planets, and distant nebulae. He had spent years charting sectors beyond the Federation's borders, mapping worlds that were considered too remote or dangerous for regular colonization. Yet no matter how many uncharted systems he visited, he had never received a message like the one blinking insistently on his communicator. It had been a simple line of text. "You're late, human." No signature, no coordinates, no explanation. Just those 3 words, echoing in his mind like a challenge. At first, he thought it was a joke, a prank sent by some rookie cadet or a rival pilot trying to shake his nerves. But the encryption signature was unlike anything he had ever seen, too sophisticated, too precise. Someone had gone through the trouble of masking their identity with technology far beyond human understanding. Curiosity overpowered caution. Elias was the sort of human who thrived on the unknown. He had been trained to survive hostile environments, negotiate with alien species, and make split-second decisions that could mean life or death. He prided himself on being prepared for everything, yet now he felt an unfamiliar twinge of uncertainty. Who was waiting for him? Why here at the edge of an abandoned sector known as the Shadow Expanse? He entered the coordinates embedded in the message. The nav system recalculated the course with a soft beep. A derelict space station appeared on the screen, orbiting a barren, gray planet with no atmosphere. Its hull was scarred and pitted, bearing decades of neglect, yet its energy signature was alive, faint, but unmistakable. The station was enormous, like a small city suspended in the void, but no life had been reported in this system for over a century. Elias docked cautiously, the shuttle trembling as the magnetic clamps latched onto the station's skeletal docking port. Every instinct told him to stay alert. He had been in life-threatening situations before, but this felt different. This was a call into the unknown, a test of human intuition against forces he could barely imagine. The airlock hissed open. Elias activated his suit lights, stepping into the station's dim corridor. Dust floated lazily in the beams of his helmet light, and the metallic scent of old machinery filled the air. The silence was thick, pressing against his senses. Every creak of the structure echoed like a warning. He moved forward, each step deliberate, his hand resting on the sidearm strapped to his thigh. Though he hoped he wouldn't need it, he knew that preparation was the first rule of survival. The corridor ended in a vast central chamber, illuminated by panels along the walls that pulsed softly with blue light. Elias froze. Dozens of figures waited there, standing in perfect formation. At first he thought they were statues, part of some forgotten alien art display. Then he noticed their subtle movements. A tilt of the head, a shift of weight, the faint glow of markings across their skin. They were alive. Elias swallowed hard. They were all women, tall, elegant, and unlike anything he had ever seen. Their skin shimmered faintly, marked with intricate bioluminescent patterns that seemed to pulse in time with their breathing. Their eyes were large, luminescent, and intelligent, and for a long moment they simply stared at him. Not with aggression, not with curiosity, but with an expectation that made him feel both small and strangely honored. "Welcome, human," a voice echoed in his mind, calm but commanding. Elias spun around, searching for the source, but no one moved their lips. "You've come at last. Who are you?" He had encountered dozens of alien civilizations in his career, but none had made contact like this. None had approached with such precision and confidence. He tried to speak, but words failed him. His human instincts screamed to flee, yet every fiber of his being was rooted to the floor. Lysara's gaze seemed to pierce through him, assessing his intentions without hostility. "Do not be afraid. You are here for a reason. We have chosen you to represent your species." They had prepared this moment meticulously, waiting for someone who could navigate uncertainty, who could survive where others might fail. Lysara extended her hand. Elias hesitated, then took a step forward, still cautious. The air in the chamber seemed to hum softly, almost like it recognized his presence. "You will face trials," she said. "Trials designed to measure the qualities of your kind. Strength, ingenuity, adaptability, and creativity. Humanity is rare, human. You may succeed or you may fail." He could face this, too. "What do I need to do?" he asked, trying to steady his voice. Lysara's eyes glowed brighter. "Follow, observe, learn, and do not underestimate yourself. Your kind has qualities that even we, advanced as we are, cannot predict." The interior of the station was vast, more complex than he had anticipated. Corridors twisted in ways that defied standard architecture, gravity fields shifted subtly, and the air shimmered as if alive. It was an environment designed for beings far more capable than a single human, yet he did not panic. As he walked, he studied them. Each woman moved with grace, their eyes constantly assessing, their postures relaxed yet alert. Some glanced at him with what felt like curiosity, others with what he interpreted as amusement. It struck him that, despite their apparent superiority, there was something familiar in their interest, a recognition of potential, of value, of spirit. They arrived at a chamber unlike any Elias had encountered. The walls were smooth and reflective, the floor transparent, revealing a deep void below. In the center, a holographic display shimmered into existence, projecting strange symbols, constellations, and patterns that seemed alive. "This is where your trial begins," Lysara said. "Each stage will measure different aspects of your species. Observe closely, think critically, and act decisively. The outcome is not simply success or failure, it will shape the way the galaxy sees your kind." Humanity had survived millennia against impossible odds. Humans had crossed oceans, conquered fire, and reached the stars. If anyone could navigate the unknown, it was him. "Then I will do my best," he said, standing taller despite the alien presence. "For humanity." A faint hum filled the chamber, vibrating through the floor, walls, and ceiling. Elias felt it in his bones, a reminder that he was no longer in control, but that he had a chance to prove himself. He took a step forward into the unknown, and the station seemed to respond, lights shifting, corridors opening, pathways appearing where none had existed before. The first stage of his trial awaited, and for the first time in a long while, Elias felt the exhilarating mix of fear and anticipation that came with true discovery. For a human alone in the shadow of beings far beyond comprehension, this was the ultimate test, and he was ready to face it. The chamber doors closed behind him with a soft hiss. Silence returned, broken only by the quiet hum of the station. Elias knew the journey ahead would challenge everything he believed about survival, intelligence, and humanity itself. Yet as he stepped into the unknown corridors, he carried the unshakable certainty that humans were capable of far more than even the most advanced alien civilizations could predict. And for the first time, he understood why the message had said, "You're late, human." He felt a strange mixture of awe and unease. The station was alive in ways he could not explain. It was as if the entire structure were watching him, waiting for him to prove himself. He glanced back, half expecting the dozens of alien women to follow him. Instead, the doors closed silently, leaving him alone. A low hum resonated through the corridor, vibrating against his chest and reminding him that every step he took was part of the trial. Elias knew that he had been brought here for more than observation. These beings wanted to see what humanity could do. The corridor opened into a wide chamber. In its center, a holographic projection flickered to life, forming a map of stars and planets. Constellations he had never seen before rotated slowly in three-dimensional space. Symbols he could not decipher floated in the air, shifting in complex patterns. Elias raised his hand instinctively to reach out. "Do not touch yet," said a voice in his mind. He turned sharply, scanning the empty chamber. "Observe first. Learn the patterns before you act." Her telepathic tone was calm, almost soothing, yet carried authority that left no room for argument. Elias nodded, trying to focus on the task before him. He studied the holographic map carefully. The constellations seemed random at first, but he noticed subtle repetitions. Certain clusters appeared more frequently, forming shapes that reminded him of abstract puzzles from old human logic games. He realized that the challenge was not only to understand what the symbols represented, but also to interpret them in a way the aliens could recognize as insight. Time passed, though Elias had no way of knowing how long. He traced patterns in his mind, tried different hypotheses, and slowly began to see a logic in the chaos. Each cluster of symbols corresponded to a potential route through the station, paths that could lead to success or failure. He made his first choice and moved toward the corridor indicated by the map. The floor beneath him shifted slightly as he stepped forward. Panels of light illuminated his path, and a soft mechanical whir followed each movement. The station seemed to respond to his decisions, confirming that he had read the symbols correctly. Elias felt a surge of relief, quickly followed by renewed caution. This was only the beginning. Suddenly, a door opened to the left, revealing a chamber filled with strange objects. They floated midair, rotating slowly as if unaffected by gravity. Elias studied them closely. Each object appeared organic yet metallic, some resembling coral, others like delicate filigree crafted from precious metals. "Choose carefully," Lysara's voice echoed in his mind. "Only one will guide you forward. The wrong choice may delay you or trap you entirely." He extended his hand toward one that resembled a spiral shell. As soon as his fingers brushed it, the object pulsed with light, and the room shifted. Panels descended, creating a narrow passage leading deeper into the station. He realized that the station itself was a test of perception, judgment, and adaptability. Each choice reflected not only intelligence but also the qualities that made humans unique: observation, intuition, and the willingness to act despite uncertainty. Elias smiled faintly. Humanity was unpredictable, yes, but that unpredictability could be an advantage. The corridor beyond was narrower, lined with reflective surfaces that distorted his image. For a moment, he saw dozens of versions of himself, each moving slightly out of sync. Elias laughed quietly. This was clever. The aliens wanted to test not only his reasoning, but also his ability to maintain focus under distraction. He kept his gaze straight ahead, using the reflections to navigate rather than to confuse himself. A soft vibration ran through the floor, and a low hum filled the air. Elias instinctively crouched as panels slid from the ceiling, forming a maze-like pattern. The walls of the corridor now shifted unpredictably, and he had to rely on memory, logic, and instinct to choose the correct path. His mind raced, but he felt alive. This was the kind of challenge humans were made for: danger without certainty, a puzzle that demanded creativity as much as caution. Hours seemed to pass. Elias moved through room after room, each presenting a new challenge. In one chamber, he had to reassemble a fragmented device whose purpose was unknown, using only observation and intuition. In another, he faced an array of pressure plates, each triggering a different response, requiring him to deduce the correct sequence through trial and error. The aliens watched silently, assessing, recording, measuring. At one point, he paused in a chamber filled with faintly glowing pools of liquid. The pools reflected not only light but sound, creating an eerie symphony of echoes. Elias realized that he needed to interpret the reflections to find the next path. He observed patterns in the ripples, predicting the movements and timing his steps perfectly to avoid triggering hidden sensors. Once again, human instinct and creativity guided him. Exhaustion threatened to set in, but Elias forced himself to focus. Every choice, every step was part of a larger test, and he understood that these beings valued not only survival but the human ability to adapt under pressure. His mind raced with possibilities, calculating outcomes and reading subtle cues from the environment. The more he advanced, the more he noticed patterns in the aliens' design. They respected cleverness, ingenuity, and emotional awareness. Finally, he reached a chamber unlike any other. The walls were transparent, revealing a breathtaking view of the dead planet below. Its gray surface stretched endlessly, scarred by craters and deep canyons. The station hung like a jewel above it, alive with strange energy. In the center of the room stood a single alien woman, separate from the others, her markings glowing softly. "I am Nelira," she said, her voice gentle but firm in his mind. "You have done well, human. Few in your species could advance this far. Most follow patterns, predictable and limited. Humanity is different. You are adaptable, curious, capable of compassion, creativity, and courage in ways we did not anticipate. These qualities are rare. You will face not only puzzles, but decisions that weigh morality, judgment, and insight. The outcome will define how we see your kind." Every step, every choice mattered not just for him, but for humanity's reputation among beings far more advanced than he could imagine. A soft hum filled the room again, and the walls shifted. Another corridor opened, wide and luminous, inviting him forward. Elias felt a flicker of excitement despite the lingering tension. He had survived the first stage through observation, ingenuity, and persistence. The next stages would be harder, but he was ready. "Remember," Nelira said, her tone resonating in his mind, "these trials are not only about skill, they are about spirit. Adapt, observe, and act. You may fail in one aspect, but your humanity may allow you to succeed where logic alone cannot." As he stepped into the new corridor, he realized something else. He was not entirely alone. Though the dozens of alien women were not visible, he sensed their presence, their attention, their quiet approval or critique. Each step he took was observed, analyzed, and remembered. The trials were as much about interaction, understanding, and perception as they were about problem-solving. Elias felt a thrill unlike any he had experienced before. This was the unknown in its purest form. The unknown had a face, it had intelligence, and it had expectations. And for the first time, he felt not fear but a profound challenge, a call to show that humans, though small and fragile in the cosmic scale, were capable of brilliance beyond prediction. He moved forward steadily, each step more confident than the last. The station seemed to respond, lights pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat, corridors unfolding as if encouraging him onward. He could feel the presence of the aliens guiding him subtly, not through words but through the environment itself. Elias understood then that the trial was not only about reaching an end. It was about demonstrating qualities that defined his species: courage in the face of uncertainty, creativity under pressure, and the ability to connect, even with beings far beyond his comprehension. He paused for a moment, looking back at the fading entrance behind him. For a brief second, he considered turning back, retreating to the shuttle, and abandoning the trial. But that was not the human way. Humans did not shrink from challenges. Humans faced them, learned from them, and grew stronger for the effort. With renewed determination, Elias stepped forward into the next chamber, ready for whatever the alien women had prepared. He did not know what trials awaited, but he knew one thing clearly: humanity was unpredictable, resourceful, and alive. And in that he held a power that no alien logic could fully measure. The corridor ahead glowed brighter, and a subtle vibration thrummed through the floor. Elias walked on, mind alert, senses sharp, heart steady. The first stage of observation was complete, but the real challenge was only beginning. He was not merely a human in an alien station. He was humanity's representative, and he would not fail. Elias entered the next chamber, and the air seemed heavier, charged with an almost tangible tension. The walls were no longer metallic and reflective. Instead, they shimmered like liquid glass, bending light and creating faint illusions. He stopped for a moment, steadying himself. The corridor itself was a puzzle. The floor subtly shifted beneath his boots, and walls seemed to move when he looked away. This stage of the trial was no longer just observation. It was testing his mind and instincts, the very essence of human adaptability. A soft voice resonated in his mind. "Observe first," Lysara said. "The illusions are not the threat, they are the lesson. Decide what is real and what is perception." He focused on his senses, feeling the subtle vibrations in the floor, the faint shifts in air pressure, and the glow of the walls that pulsed like a heartbeat. He took a careful step forward. The walls rippled slightly, and multiple paths appeared before him. Each seemed equally viable, but instinct told him that only one led forward. He chose the path where the walls glimmered faintly blue, a subtle clue he felt more than saw. As he walked, the illusions shifted, forming images of doors, hallways, and alien figures that flickered and disappeared. His mind struggled to keep pace, but he reminded himself of what made humans different. While many species might see only logic or pattern, humans had intuition, creativity, and the ability to act despite uncertainty. After several tense minutes, he reached a chamber filled with strange floating orbs, each glowing with a different color. The orbs emitted soft musical tones, and as Elias moved closer, the notes seemed to change. One orb, glowing deep violet, pulsed in a pattern that felt almost familiar, like a rhythm he had known long ago but could not name. He realized this was a puzzle of pattern recognition, memory, and deduction. "Use what you know," Lysara's voice echoed. "Listen, respond, and act. Your senses are the key." He tapped a sequence of rhythms with his fingers on the nearest orb. The notes responded, harmonizing in a way that felt like confirmation. One by one, he repeated the process, learning the unique language of the orbs through trial, error, and instinct. The chamber shifted as he completed the sequence. The orbs glowed softly before dissolving, leaving a path forward. He breathed deeply, realizing that his success was not from knowledge alone, but from observation, patience, and creativity. Human qualities shone in ways the aliens could not always anticipate. Elias smiled faintly. This was what the message had meant. Humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and capable of solving problems in ways other species might dismiss. The next chamber was different. It appeared simple at first, an empty room with a transparent floor and a low railing along the edge. But the moment Elias stepped inside, the floor beneath him disappeared into an endless void. He froze, heart pounding. The railing was his only boundary, but stepping beyond it seemed impossible. Then he noticed something else, floating platforms, barely visible, shifting slowly in the air like stepping stones across a river. "This is a test of courage," Lysara said, her voice soft. "And trust. Step wisely, human. He could have hesitated, but human instinct demanded action. He took a step onto the first platform. It wobbled slightly but held. He balanced himself, moving carefully from one to the next. Time stretched as he navigated the invisible river. Each platform required adjustment, observation, and anticipation. Halfway across, he stumbled slightly, nearly losing his balance. He froze, heart racing, but then noticed a faint glow on the next platform, indicating the correct position to step. He adjusted, moving carefully until he reached the final platform and stepped safely onto solid ground. A faint hum of approval echoed through the chamber. Elias exhaled, a mixture of relief and exhilaration flooding him. He realized that the aliens were not only testing intelligence and perception, but also the ability to remain calm under pressure, to adapt when unexpected challenges arose. These were traits humans had cultivated over centuries, from surviving harsh environments to navigating the complexities of societies and conflicts. He moved forward and entered a chamber lined with complex holographic interfaces. Symbols rotated and shifted in three-dimensional space, displaying calculations, geometrical shapes, and star maps he could barely recognize. The task was clear: identify patterns and predict outcomes. But the symbols changed every few seconds, and the chamber seemed almost alive, reacting to his focus and hesitation. Elias approached carefully, using logic to decipher sequences while relying on instinct to anticipate changes. Hours, or what felt like hours, passed. He made mistakes, corrected them, and learned from each attempt. Slowly, patterns emerged. He traced trajectories, predicted sequences, and manipulated the holograms with precise movements. The chamber responded positively, lights pulsing with each correct adjustment. Then he noticed something unusual. Some of the holograms seemed to shift subtly when he hesitated or doubted himself. It was almost as if the station, or the aliens observing it, were testing his emotional control. Elias realized that this trial was not just intellectual, it was emotional and psychological. Maintaining focus, composure, and patience was as important as solving the puzzles themselves. A soft glow appeared in the center of the chamber, signaling the next path. Elias moved toward it, his mind sharp, his senses attuned to every detail. He felt the subtle presence of the alien women, still observing, still assessing. Some were silent, their attention focused on him like predators studying prey, but predators of a different kind, ones that respected intelligence and ingenuity. The next chamber was darker, illuminated only by faint, bioluminescent markings on the walls. Strange shapes moved in the shadows, creating illusions of creatures that did not exist. Elias felt a brief flash of fear but remembered Lysara's words. Decide what is real and what is perception. He focused, observing shadows carefully, noting inconsistencies in movement and reflection. Slowly, he discerned which forms were illusory and which were tangible objects. One of the illusions lunged toward him, a massive figure with multiple limbs and glowing eyes, but he stayed calm. Trusting his instincts, he sidestepped, and the figure dissipated into the walls. Each step required both observation and intuition, qualities humans often relied on in unpredictable situations. He moved forward, heart steady despite the tension. Finally, he reached a chamber where he was confronted with something he had not expected. A small group of the alien women were waiting. They did not approach him immediately, but their presence was palpable, almost comforting. One of them, with soft green markings across her arms, stepped forward. "I am Selira," she said in his mind, voice gentle. "You have done well to reach this stage. Not all who begin survive this far. Few can navigate our trials with both mind and heart. Yet you survive, adapt, and create solutions where others would fail. Your species is unpredictable, yet capable of ingenuity and moral courage. That is why we observe you." But hearing it from beings so advanced, beings who had watched countless civilizations rise and fall, gave him a new sense of pride. He was not just representing himself, he was representing all of humanity. "Then I will continue," he said firmly, "for humanity." The next stages will test cooperation, judgment, and the ability to influence outcomes beyond immediate perception. You will meet others who may aid or hinder you. Observe carefully and choose wisely. Not all paths are clear, and not all allies are obvious. Humans were not perfect, but they had a unique combination of traits that allowed them to survive, create, and thrive in ways even advanced alien species could not always predict. As he moved into the next corridor, he felt a sense of anticipation. The trial was far from over, but he was learning, adapting, and proving that human qualities, ingenuity, courage, and empathy, were powerful tools. He had faced illusions, puzzles, and challenges that tested every part of his mind and body, and he had survived. The presence of the alien women lingered subtly, their attention like a quiet current guiding him forward. He understood now that these trials were not just about completing tasks. They were about revealing the essence of humanity, showing that even a single human could embody the traits that made their species extraordinary. Elias exhaled deeply, feeling both exhaustion and exhilaration. The path ahead was uncertain, but he was determined. Humans were resourceful, adaptive, and resilient. They faced the unknown with curiosity, courage, and creativity. And now, in this alien station, under the watchful gaze of beings far beyond his understanding, Elias was ready to continue proving it. With steady steps, he moved deeper into the station, mind alert, senses sharp, and heart resolute. The next challenges awaited, and he would meet them head-on, carrying the spirit of humanity with him. Elias moved cautiously down the new corridor, his senses alert to every subtle sound, shift, and glow. The air seemed thicker here, vibrating faintly with energy that he could feel in his chest. The walls shimmered with soft hues that changed according to his movement, creating an almost hypnotic effect. Every step reminded him that he was not merely walking through a station. He was navigating a complex test designed by beings who had mastered both technology and psychology. Ahead, the corridor opened into a massive chamber, much larger than any he had seen so far. Light came from no visible source, casting an even, diffuse glow across the room. Floating platforms hovered in the middle, slowly spinning, forming a path that seemed almost impossible to traverse. At first glance, the platforms appeared random, shifting unpredictably. Elias realized immediately that this was a challenge of precision, timing, and judgment. One wrong step could leave him stranded or force him to start again. A voice filled his mind, calm yet commanding. This stage measures control, patience, and the ability to anticipate consequences. Not all who begin will succeed. Some may falter, and some may surprise even themselves. He noticed subtle patterns, the intervals of their rotations, the way light reflected differently on each. He stepped onto the first one cautiously, testing its stability. It wobbled slightly but held, and he moved carefully from one to the next. Halfway across, a platform shifted unexpectedly, tilting beneath his boots. He reacted instinctively, adjusting his weight and keeping his balance. It was difficult, exhausting, and nerve-wracking, but he was human. Humans were capable of improvisation when the unexpected occurred. As he reached the far side, a panel descended from the ceiling, revealing a new challenge. The room transformed before his eyes. Walls slid outward to create a smaller chamber filled with tall, crystalline structures, each emitting faint, rhythmic pulses of light. The crystals formed a labyrinth, and Elias realized that he needed to navigate it without touching the walls. Each crystal responded to movement, and a wrong step would trigger an energy pulse that would push him back to the beginning. He paused, observing patterns in the lights, listening to the hum that seemed to guide him. Step by step, he moved through the labyrinth, adjusting to subtle shifts, anticipating movements and trusting both logic and instinct. This was more than a physical challenge. It was a test of mental agility and focus under pressure. Elias felt sweat running down his temple, yet his mind remained sharp. Midway through, he noticed movement among the crystals. A shadow shifted, then solidified into a familiar form, one of the alien women watching him closely. Her markings glowed faintly, and Elias felt no threat from her. Instead, there was subtle guidance, almost like a hint that he was on the correct path. "You are observant," the voice of Selira echoed in his mind. "Some of us choose to aid those who show understanding. Observe carefully, not all intentions are what they seem." He navigated the labyrinth carefully, eventually reaching the exit where Selira stepped aside, allowing him to pass. Relief and pride surged within him. The trial was exhausting, yes, but he had survived by remaining calm, focused, and observant. Humans were small and fragile compared to these beings, yet they were capable of thinking in ways the aliens could not always anticipate. The chamber beyond was quieter, almost serene. A soft, ambient glow lit the space, revealing a panoramic view of the dead planet below. The planet's gray surface stretched endlessly, pocked with craters and canyons. Elias stepped closer to the viewing window and exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of his journey so far. Every step had been a test of mind, body, and spirit, and he had endured. But the sense of calm did not last. A sudden vibration ran through the floor and panels in the walls shifted outward, revealing new figures. More of the alien women appeared, their movements graceful and deliberate. Elias counted them carefully. They were many, far more than in any chamber he had entered before. Their presence was imposing, yet there was no hostility in their gaze. Lysara's voice filled his mind. The final stages are approaching. You have succeeded in observation, adaptability, and resilience. Now you will face challenges that test morality, judgment, and the ability to influence outcomes. Some will help you, others may hinder. Choose carefully. The consequences are greater than you have faced before. He had survived physical challenges and mental puzzles, but now the test seemed more complex, involving not only intellect but human judgment and ethical decision-making. He realized that this stage would determine more than whether he completed the trial. It would reveal what humanity truly represented. The women formed a circle around him. Their eyes glowed softly, and Elias could feel the weight of their attention. He noticed subtle differences among them. Some marked him with curiosity, others with scrutiny, and a few with what felt like quiet encouragement. There was no direct instruction, yet the environment seemed to respond to his thoughts and actions. A panel descended in the center of the circle, revealing several intricate devices. Each device emitted a low hum and displayed holographic symbols. Elias recognized immediately that this was a puzzle, but it was different from any he had encountered before. These devices required simultaneous consideration of logic, emotion, and timing. Choosing incorrectly could trap him, delay him, or test him again in ways he could not yet anticipate. He approached the nearest device and studied it carefully. Each symbol responded to touch, light, and movement. He tried several approaches, testing hypotheses while observing reactions. As he progressed, he noticed patterns in the responses. Certain symbols lit more brightly when he acted with calm deliberation rather than hasty choice. He realized this puzzle was as much about patience and judgment as it was about intellect. Hours, or what felt like hours, passed. Elias made careful choices, correcting mistakes quickly and learning from subtle cues. He became aware of Celira and a few others observing silently, their presence almost like guidance without interference. He noticed a small pattern among their attention. Some seemed to nudge him subtly toward solutions without directly revealing answers. It was not cheating, it was teaching, and Elias understood that these women had recognized qualities they admired. Finally, the devices aligned. Holographic symbols shifted, forming a coherent sequence that illuminated the chamber in a soft golden light. The platforms beneath him shifted, forming a path toward the next chamber. Elias felt a surge of relief, knowing he had completed a complex stage of the trial. But he also understood the subtle lesson. Survival and success were not merely about intelligence or strength. They were about observation, empathy, and the ability to understand others. As he moved forward, the alien women parted slightly, allowing him passage. Elias noticed one of them, her markings glowing faintly, watching him with a small, almost imperceptible smile. It occurred to him that even among a species of superior intellect, there were individuals who appreciated human qualities, creativity, courage, and moral judgment. The next chamber was quieter, filled with soft ambient light. Panels displayed abstract representations of human concepts: trust, cooperation, courage, and sacrifice. Elias realized that this stage of the trial would test his ability to act ethically, to consider consequences, and to demonstrate judgment beyond simple survival. He stepped forward carefully, observing the symbols and considering the challenges they represented. The choices were not obvious. Each option had potential benefits and risks, and no clear answer guaranteed success. This was unlike any puzzle he had solved before. Here, the challenge was not speed, strength, or intelligence. It was morality, insight, and foresight. Elias made his decisions thoughtfully, weighing outcomes and considering the intentions behind his actions. With each correct choice, the chamber responded, glowing softly and shifting subtly, acknowledging his judgment. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Human qualities, empathy, moral courage, and creative problem-solving were not weaknesses, they were strengths, and here they were being recognized by beings far more advanced than himself. By the time he reached the far end of the chamber, Elias was exhausted but exhilarated. He had navigated challenges that tested his mind, body, and spirit. He had survived illusions, puzzles, shifting platforms, and complex ethical dilemmas. More than that, he had demonstrated qualities that defined humanity: courage, ingenuity, empathy, and resilience. Celira stepped forward again, her voice warm and approving. You have shown much, human. Few could endure what you have faced. Your species possesses qualities that we respect, even if we cannot fully comprehend all your unpredictability. Remember that your choices, your actions, and your spirit speak for more than yourself. They speak for humanity. His survival was not merely a personal achievement. It was a testament to the ingenuity, courage, and resilience of his species. As he stepped toward the next chamber, he felt the subtle presence of the alien women around him. Their attention was not threatening. It was evaluative, measured, and in some cases, approving. Elias understood that he had earned a degree of respect, though the trials were not yet complete. The final stage awaited, and it promised to be the most difficult yet. But for the first time, he felt a quiet confidence. Humans had always survived against the odds. They had explored, created, and adapted in ways that even advanced species might not predict. And here, in the heart of an alien station, Elias felt that humanity's potential was finally being recognized. With steady steps, he moved deeper into the station, ready for the final trials. He carried not only his own determination, but the spirit of his entire species, ready to prove that humans were capable of brilliance, courage, and adaptability, even in the most extraordinary circumstances. Elias stepped into the final chamber, his heartbeat echoing in rhythm with the soft hum of the station. The room was immense, larger than any he had seen before, with walls of translucent material that stretched upward into darkness. The floor shimmered faintly, reflecting his own figure and the distant glow of the alien women who had gathered at the edges, watching silently. This was the culmination of the trials, the stage where every choice, every observation, every instinct would be measured against beings far beyond human comprehension. Lysara's voice filled his mind, calm and resonant. This stage is not only about skill or intelligence. It is about understanding, courage, and the ability to act in the face of uncertainty. What you do here will define how your species is seen among the stars. Now it was time to demonstrate the one quality that humans possessed above nearly all others: ingenuity under pressure combined with compassion. At the center of the chamber floated a large, spherical device, pulsing with energy and projecting holographic sequences into the air. The symbols shifted constantly, forming constellations, diagrams, and patterns that seemed alive. As he stepped closer, the symbols coalesced into an interface that required immediate action. He realized that the device was a test of both intellect and judgment. It demanded decisions that could not be purely logical, for logic alone would not account for the moral and creative dimensions the aliens valued. Suddenly, the room shifted. Panels descended from the ceiling, creating a labyrinth of moving walls, and the floor altered its alignment, forming platforms that swayed gently. Elias realized that timing, precision, and strategy were as important as decision-making. The challenge was layered. Every movement could affect the outcome of the holographic device, and every choice could be influenced by his perception of the alien observers. He studied the device carefully. Patterns repeated in cycles, but slight deviations indicated hidden rules. Elias used his memory and observation to predict the sequences, adjusting his actions accordingly. One wrong step could force him to start again, but he knew that hesitation could be worse than action. Humanity thrived not through perfection, but through adaptation. Halfway through, the platform beneath him tilted unexpectedly. Elias stumbled but recovered, noticing a faint glow on the next safe spot. He leaped carefully, landing solidly, and continued forward. The alien women shifted subtly, some moving closer, others observing from a distance. He sensed that a few were silently guiding him, offering subtle cues that only someone attentive would notice. He realized that observation, empathy, and connection were still part of the test. He reached the holographic device and extended his hands. The symbols reacted instantly, responding to his gestures. He began manipulating the patterns, aligning constellations and linking sequences. Each correct adjustment caused the device to hum in resonance with the station, almost as if acknowledging his progress. Elias' mind raced, but he remained calm, letting intuition and logic work together. Then he noticed something alarming. A sudden shift in the holographic patterns indicated a failure in one sequence. The device began projecting warnings, and a subtle vibration pulsed through the floor. Elias' heart raced. He realized the station itself was testing his ability to respond under pressure, to remain composed when errors threatened the entire challenge. He paused for a fraction of a second, assessing the failure. Most beings would panic, but Elias relied on what made humans remarkable: adaptability and resilience. He traced the sequence back in his mind, identified the error, and implemented a solution that required both creativity and timing. The device stabilized, the warning ceased, and the energy pulsed steadily, signaling that he had overcome the obstacle. A faint glow appeared in the room, revealing three smaller devices floating in a triangle around the main sphere. Each emitted a subtle energy signature, and Elias instinctively understood that they were connected. Solving one alone would not suffice. All three had to be harmonized simultaneously. He extended his hands, manipulating two at a time, observing the subtle feedback and adjusting accordingly. Hours seemed to pass, though he had no way to measure time. Sweat dampened his brow and fatigue tugged at his muscles, but he pressed on. This was more than a test of skill, it was a test of spirit. Humans were not merely problem solvers. They were observers, connectors, and innovators under pressure. Elias realized that the aliens were not only testing outcomes, but also intent. Whether a human could act with integrity, patience, and awareness in complex, unpredictable situations. At one critical moment, the energy from one device surged unexpectedly. A blast of force would have thrown most beings off balance, but Elias anticipated it, adjusting both timing and position. The other two devices resonated with his action, creating a harmonic balance. The sphere at the center pulsed brilliantly, projecting a sequence of light and sound that filled the chamber. He stepped back, breathing heavily, his body trembling from exertion and adrenaline. The alien women approached slowly, their faces serene, marking approval. Lysara's voice entered his mind once more. "You have demonstrated the qualities we seek: intellect, adaptability, courage, and judgment. More than that, you have shown empathy, awareness, and the ability to inspire cooperation. These traits are rare." Some of them stepped forward, their markings glowing softly. He realized that he had not only completed the trial, but had also earned their recognition. A few seemed to communicate silently among themselves, acknowledging that humans were unpredictable but capable of remarkable problem-solving and moral judgment. One of the women, her skin marked with soft turquoise patterns, spoke in his mind. "You have done what few could. You represent not only yourself but your species. We see now why humanity is unique: creativity in adversity, courage without certainty, and connection beyond logic." Humans were small, fragile, and unpredictable, but that unpredictability, coupled with ingenuity and moral courage, was a power others could not always measure. He realized that his actions here could change how his species was perceived across the stars. Lysara approached, her markings glowing brighter. "Few beings have reached this stage, fewer still have succeeded. You have shown us that humans, though limited in some ways, possess qualities that cannot be replicated: adaptability, creativity, and moral courage. These are the traits that define your kind and make you worthy of observation and partnership." He had navigated illusions, shifting environments, and moral choices. He had survived not by strength alone, not by intellect alone, but by embracing the full spectrum of human qualities: creativity, empathy, courage, and adaptability. The chamber shifted again. A pathway opened, revealing a view of the dead planet below and the vastness of space beyond. The alien women moved aside, allowing him passage. As he walked toward the opening, Lysara spoke one final time. "You have succeeded. Remember this: your species is capable of far more than you often believe. Humans endure, adapt, and inspire in ways we cannot fully predict. We will observe and we will remember." He had proven not only his own abilities, but the essence of humanity. Each step felt lighter, yet more significant. He knew that returning to his ship would not simply be a matter of leaving the station. It would be carrying a message. Humans were worthy, unpredictable, and capable of brilliance. As he exited the station, the alien women remained, silent and dignified. Their eyes followed him briefly, acknowledging his success. Elias looked back once more, seeing Lysara and Celira standing together, their forms glowing softly against the station's energy. For the first time, he felt a sense of kinship, subtle but undeniable, with beings so different yet so observant of life's potential. Boarding his shuttle, he settled into the cockpit, hands gripping the controls. The station receded behind him, orbiting the gray planet like a jewel suspended in darkness. The message from the beginning echoed in his mind once more. "You're late, human." But this time, Elias smiled. He was late, perhaps, but he had arrived, and humanity had arrived with him. A notification blinked on his console, displaying a new message from an unknown source. He opened it cautiously. The text read simply, "Next time, human, we expect more. Show us what your kind can do." The galaxy had noticed, and the trials he had faced were only the beginning. Humans were capable of ingenuity, courage, and moral insight that even advanced civilizations could not fully measure. He looked out at the stars stretching endlessly before him. Each one represented a world, a possibility, and a future waiting to be explored. Humanity had proven itself capable of rising to challenges, adapting to the unknown, and achieving greatness not through brute force, but through creativity, empathy, and perseverance. Elias set the shuttle on a course back toward Federation space, carrying with him the knowledge that humans were extraordinary, not in ways the galaxy always expected, but in ways that mattered most. They could think, adapt, feel, and innovate. They could survive the impossible and inspire even the most advanced beings to acknowledge their worth. As the shuttle's engines roared to life, Elias allowed himself a small, quiet smile. The trials were complete, but the story was only beginning. Humans had shown the galaxy that they were unpredictable, resilient, and capable of brilliance. And Elias knew that, wherever the next challenge awaited, humanity would rise to meet it, curious, courageous, and unbroken. He glanced once more at the stars, feeling a deep connection to the vast unknown. The alien station, the women, the trials, they had tested him, challenged him, and revealed the essence of his species. Humans were small, yes, but they were remarkable in ways that could not be measured by strength, speed, or technology alone. And as he charted his course back home, Elias felt a profound certainty. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again.